thank all of you for coming here today. I especially want to thank Chairman McCain and Senator Isaacson and Senator Ernst, and I know that several of my other colleagues will be joining us shortly. Most of all, I want to welcome Charlie Kiba and Master Sergeant Tim Stamey for being here, and those who are behind me who have served our country both as flying in the A-10 and also supporting our men and women on the ground as JTACs. So a lot of people, we're here today because a lot of people in the Beltway are pretending to be close air support experts, and it's nice to have some real combat experience close air support experts today here to help us talk about what we need to protect our troops, and I'm honored to have Senator Graham here as well. I appreciate their willingness to be here in Washington. And so with me I have Charlie Kiba, the president of the Tactical Air Control Association, and they represent 3,300 current and former Joint Terminal Attack Controllers, or JTACs. The JTACs are the close air support experts, and that's their job. No one knows CAS better than the JTACs. And Mr. Kiba, who's with me today, served on active duty for 10 years as JTAC and a TACP instructor, and he saw combat as a JTAC deployed to Afghanistan with the 75th Ranger Regiment. Master Sergeant Tim Stamey is an Air Force combat veteran, Silver Star recipient, and former JTAC. He served in the Air Force for almost 22 years, including 14 years as a JTAC with extensive experience controlling all of the airframes, including the A-10s, F-15s, F-16s, B-1s, B-52s, and he was awarded the Silver Star for his actions during Operation Enduring Freedom, where he was credited with inflicting over 2,000 enemy casualties. He's one of the most experienced, accomplished, and respected JTACs alive, so we're honored to have him here today. I'd also recognize Pat Garrett, a Navy SEAL JTAC, who is here with us. And before we hear from the other members, and from Mr. Kiba and Master Sergeant Stamey, I just want to say a few words. I've been fighting so hard to ensure that the A-10 is not retired. And the reason for this is very straightforward, because I believe when our men and women are on the ground serving us and taking enemy fire, and they call for help, that they get the very best close air support to ensure that they get out of that firefight alive, and that our enemies understand that we're going to be there to support our men and women in uniform. If we send them less than the best, if we send them an aircraft with less capability, or designed for another mission, or flown by a pilot that only spends a fraction of his or her time training for CAS, we put Americans at risk, and that is unacceptable. The Air Force argument in favor of premature divestment of the A-10 has been a moving target. It's changed, and we've heard multiple arguments. The Air Force said, don't worry about the divestment of the A-10 because the F-35 will replace the A-10. When we pointed out under the Air Force's proposal that all A-10s would be gone before the F-35A ever reached operational capability, their argument shifted. And unfortunately, despite the fact that the Air Force has admitted that the A-10 is optimized to conduct close air support missions, they said, don't worry, because the F-15s, the F-16s, and the B-1s can do the close air support as well as the A-10. But when we asked General Odierno, the Army Chief of Staff, whether the F-16 is the same as the A-10 when it comes to close air support, he said it's not the same. And in fact, the former commander of Air Force Air Combat Command originally said when they were seeking to retire the A-10s that if we sent them to Syria, they would never come back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, since we had this press conference last year, right now, A-10s are serving in Iraq and Syria and taking the fight to ISIS and supporting those on the ground and ensuring that we fight the fight to defeat ISIS, which is such a threat to this country. We've also seen the A-10 sent back to Europe to assure our allies and deter additional aggression by Putin. This is incredibly important, and that's why with the upcoming markup with the defense authorization, we plan to ensure that the A-10 is preserved so that our men and women on the ground have the very best close air support capability because they deserve it. There is no replacement right now for the A-10, and things have only gotten more dangerous around the world, and the need for the continuing to have the A-10 there to support our troops now could not be more apparent. And that's why I'm honored to have here with me so many of my colleagues. And most of all, I would like to turn it over to the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, who understands so well the importance of close air support and has been leading the fight to ensure that the A-10 is not prematurely divested and that our men and women in uniform have the very best support that they need. Chairman McCain?
Well, thank you very much, Senator Ayotte. I think you pretty well described the situation as it exists. It still is really bewildering almost to me to see that the Air Force continues to advocate the elimination of the most important and single instrument of protecting our troops on the ground that the A-10 represents. By the way, one of our wonderful people here, experts, gave me this cap, and it says on it, treason. I don't quite go that far in preserving the A-10, but I will wear this every time I'm down in Tucson, I promise you that I will. Today, A-10s are flying in combat situation. One news report indicated that the A-10 sparked panic among ISIL fighters while carrying out a strike near Mosul. I mean, the evidence is clear that this close air support weapon system is by far the most effective that has ever been invented, and the rationale that the Air Force is using does not hold water. It does not bear examination. To say that you want to replace an aircraft that costs the taxpayers around $15 million with one that the price continues to escalate in the case of the F-35, and of course the B-1, the cost per hour is astronomical compared to the A-10. I also want to mention Congresswoman McSally, who is our newly elected member of Congress from Arizona, is a former commander of the A-10 squadron, and she is certainly a credible advocate for this weapon system. I want to thank my colleagues who are here also today, but we will be working with the House Armed Services Committee and with under Senator Ayotte's leadership working to preserve the A-10 as the most important part of our ability to defend our men and women who are serving the military in a world that Senator Graham has described as on fire. So thank you very much, Senator Ayotte, for your advocacy. It is worth mentioning that she does have a certain knowledge of the A-10, given the fact that her husband was an A-10 pilot with the New Hampshire National Guard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman McCain. I would turn it over to Senator Graham.
Thank you. I don't fly anything. I don't have a family member involved, but Senator Ayotte and McCain have made a persuasive case to me through the people behind us. I'm still in the Air Force, and to my brothers and sisters in the Air Force, I don't understand what you're doing here. You keep making claims that do not bear out. You've made some claims about the capabilities of other airplanes to replace the A-10 that I find not reliable. And if you don't watch it, you're going to ruin what's left of your reputation on Capitol Hill. If it is a money-driven process, if the only reason we have to retire the A-10, well, let's find money. The answer to retiring the A-10, if it's just money, let's find money to make sure it keeps flying. If the answer to our aircraft needs is to replace sequestration, let's replace sequestration. I believe that the civilian leadership should listen to the military, and I do. And I respect those who wear the uniform, but we have an independent duty to make sure what they're advising us makes sense. And in the case of the A-10, the Air Force position makes no sense. That's why the Congress is not going to allow it to go forward.
I would like to introduce Senator Isaacson, who is also the chairman of the Veterans Committee. Thank you, Senator Isaacson.
Thank you, Senator Ayotte, Senator McCain. You might think I'm here because of Moody Air Force Base and the Warthogs there. Well, that's part of it, but there's another reason. The A-10 is ISIL's worst enemy and America's Marines, infantrymen, and SEALs' best friend. We should never, as a great nation, disarm in the middle of a conflict or disarm in the middle of a battle where we don't have a replacement that makes sense or that works or that the military wants. Let's keep the A-10, let's keep them flying, let's save our soldiers and infantrymen, let's take ISIL out, let's make their worst nightmare come true.
Thank you. And we are very honored to have Senator Ernst here, who is a member of the Armed Services Committee, also a combat veteran herself. Senator Ernst.
Thank you, Senator Ayotte, and thanks to my colleagues here today for standing up and supporting the A-10 and the efforts to keep that in place. It is an extremely powerful platform, and bottom line up front, folks, is that my colleagues and I are not here today to fight for a piece of equipment. What we are doing today is fighting for the very lives of our men and women that are serving on the ground in these dangerous areas. I have heard over and over and over again from many colleagues that they would not be here today with us if it weren't for the A-10. We do not have a comparable platform at this time. And bottom line, again, we're not fighting for a piece of equipment. We are fighting for the lives of our American men and women, special operators, warriors, those that are danger close with the enemy. The A-10 right now is the only air platform that can get up close, get very personal with ISIS, as Senator Isaacson said, with those others that are intent on harming our men and women. So again, we need to keep this platform in place. I feel very strongly about this, and I want to thank Senator Ayotte for raising these concerns and pushing this issue here on the Hill. Thank you very much, Senator Ayotte.
Thank you, Senator Ernst. And now I would like to introduce Charlie Kibo, who is the president of the Tactical Air Control Association, and ask him to speak about his association and close air support.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you all for being here. So the TACP Association, we represent about 3,300 JTACs. All services have JTACs. The Air Force predominantly has the most. The training that goes into making a JTAC is very important. Right now, we've got about 25% to 50%, depending on the command, coming from the A-10. So the fact that this aircraft is going away does not just impact combat, it also impacts the training to get a guy ready to go to combat. So a JTAC, again, is a guy wearing a backpack with a radio in it, typically running with an Army unit, so one single Air Force JTAC guy with a 30-man Army unit, for example. He is trusted by that ground commander to be the expert on all things close air support. The equipment that is used is basic. I mean, all you need is a radio, a map, a compass. The Air Force is trying to introduce a lot of new technology with new platforms, with digital CAS. I can tell you when the bullets start flying, none of that stuff works. It takes a very trusted teammate on the other end of the radio, and you don't find a better teammate in this industry than an A-10 pilot. So again, if you take the A-10 pilot out, you reduce the amount of training that a JTAC gets by those educated platforms, you introduce new technology, you're gonna have a lot more fratricide incidents, which we do not want, obviously. A typical CAS mission, again, it's not what you would think. It's not, you get shot at, a red dot appears above the enemy's head, and a bomb magically drops on them. It is literally a conversation, just like we're having, with a guy on the other end of the radio, and you're looking for the bad guy, you're looking for civilians, you're looking for non-targets to make sure that the bomb actually goes in a legal and effective target. So again, the A-10, it cannot be replaced by any other asset. It disgusts me that we're even having this conversation to begin with. I'm not sure what's going to be coming next, if they're going to take our radios or our body armor or our boots. It makes no sense. If it's a money issue, then let's find some more money. But it's absolutely a need, which is confirmed by every other service. So I'm not sure what that decision-making process looks like, but it's absolutely needed on the battlefield today. So just a basic point on leadership is you surround yourself with people smarter than you. You surround yourself with experts. You don't just see an A-10 and automatically become an expert on what it can do. You don't just find yourself in combat and automatically become an expert on all things related to combat. You have to find those experts from those fields, take their input, and make your decision. And it appears that that decision was made before an expert was ever even asked. So it's a disgusting fact and a disgusting scenario for all JTACs who are now kind of losing faith that folks in DC have their best interest in mind. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And we've just had the arrival of Senator Perdue. I want to give him a chance to speak about this.
Well, Senator Ayotte, Senator McCain, I want to thank you for your leadership in this. I just want to add my words to the weight of these people up here about how serious this is. The A-10 is our best close air support platform. And I just want to make sure that, that we do the best we can with the Air Force to make sure we don't have a gap in being able to provide that platform to that very important mission of close air support. It's being used right now. It's been used for years. It's a proven platform. It's cost effective. And I just want to make sure that the world knows that we're united and committed behind the support of this platform. So, Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm honored to introduce Master Sergeant Tim Stamey, for Silver Star recipient, JTAC, and incredible experience on the ground. So, Master Sergeant Stamey.
I'd like to talk about what an expert is first. And I appreciate our great senators and especially Senator Ayotte for listening to the experts back here. There's a lot of people with some infantry officers, for example, that have had combat experience. And they think they're an expert in close air support. Well, every infantry commander with its Marines or Army, especially battalion or above, has got a JTAC or an air liaison officer with them. And they're there to be their expert. They're there for three things: to advise, assist, and control. To advise that commander on the capabilities of those aircraft, what their capabilities are, what their limitations are, and to advise them on the munitions and what those munitions can and can't do, and in which places and engagements those munitions and which aircraft should be used on, and then to assist them in their planning for offensive battles on when to bring the aircraft in and different munitions to make it happen, and then last but not least, but to control those airstrikes. Infantry officers can't know all that, so they're not the experts, but they have the experts with them. And these great senators have spent time talking to the experts. But you'll have people that'll act like they're an expert. But if you're out there as an infantry officer and an A-10 comes in or a B-1 or something else comes in out there and drops an airstrike on you, or not on you, but for you, and you see that, that doesn't make you an expert any more than if you have a heart problem and you go in and you get heart surgery. You're now not an expert on heart surgery, the surgeon is. The A-10, where the A-10 beats out all the other aircraft at is night, because they fly slower, they fly under goggles, they have more canopy space, they can tilt over, they can see the ground, and they can fly slow enough to pick out targets on the ground. Our infantry guys are using IR strobes, infrared strobes, which can only be seen in the 890 nanometer. I'm not going to get into that, but anyway, night vision goggles. And they're flying slow enough that they can pick those out and tell the difference between them and gunfire, because they flash also. Bad weather. It flies slow enough and it can turn tight enough turns where if you're in a valley and the cloud deck's at 2,000 feet, he can spin around and come back to you and stay there and stay in the battlefield area and keep situational awareness on where the bad guys and the good guys are without having to go out of the valley and come back down and then reacquaint himself with it. So he's there getting it. And one thing they talk about, okay, you can use GPS-guided bombs to hit stuff. Okay, that's hitting a target coordinate. That works great when you're back beyond enemy lines and you're sneaking around. I've done it. And you're picking out targets, stationary targets are out there, and having a B-1 come over and drop GPS-guided bombs and boom, boom, hit them. But when troops, our troops, are in harm's way, and it's a battlefield, it's fluid, things are moving. So that GPS coordinates aren't worth anything. By the time the bomb gets there, the truck or the people are already moved. Troops in contact, 500-pound, 2,000-pound bombs, the spread of those bombs, and even if they hit exactly where you want them to hit, are going to cause tremendous damage. But an A-10 can come in when you got small arms hitting you, you're normally within 400 meters, this, that, and the other. That's way too close to be dropping bombs. And that's where the Gal-8 Avenger, the gun, comes in. That gun, they can precision. I mean, they can hit within 50 meters of your position, and you're safe, and they can take out the bad guys when you're about to lose your life. And you'll hear the thing about, well, there's other guns that can do that. Well, the other guns on the other aircraft are for air to air. And you may not have ever went duck hunting or quail hunting, but if you're going to shoot something in the air, you don't take a rifle to do it. You take a shotgun to do it. Well, those guns are made to disperse in an area to hit something moving. The A-10 is right on target, so it will hit it, so it's not going to disperse and throw rounds out that may hit the friendlies. And if there's a group of guys there, well, the A-10 guy can sit there and pedal his rudders and move the gun back and forth as he's going through to them. But there is nothing that is as good doing CAS as the A-10. Nothing even comes close.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
I want to thank all of you for being here, and we're happy to take questions because this is obviously a very important issue, and especially with the threats we face around the world right now. And the upcoming markup, I can assure you we're going to work hard to ensure that our men and women on the ground, and you've heard obviously directly from the JTACs and those with incredible experience, and those that are behind me also have this experience and can speak to these issues well. But this is incredibly important, and we owe it to our men and women in uniform to preserve this platform right now.
Senator Ernst, before you leave, with your military background, as the general public, do you think that you would want the latest and greatest aircraft? Yet we've got the B-52. Is there any template to use with the B-52 justification that could apply to the A-10 of keeping an old airframe in the air?
Well, I think we do want the latest and greatest, but we haven't seen the latest and greatest that does the equivalent of what the A-10 does. So if, just like many folks will say, if it ain't broke, why fix it? We have a platform that works and is relied upon by so many of our different fighters on the ground. So if it's working, it's something we need to support. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes. Thanks, Johnny.
On what the protection should look like in the bill, how the A-10 should be protected in the legislation?
I do. I'm pleased that the House acted, and we'll work with the House, as you heard Chairman McCain say. And I want to make sure, as we look at putting the language together on the Senate end, that we preserve the A-10 and we preserve its capability. I mean, it can't be that the Air Force is, again, allowed to diminish its maintenance capability or do sort of a de facto retirement. And so I'm going to make sure that the language is strong in what comes out of the Senate version to ensure that we're not retiring them either in effect, directly, or indirectly, because the bottom line is we need this capability. Yes?
Senator, Congress and the White House have forced the Air Force to slash its budget, but at the same time, Congress has blocked the Air Force from retiring the Global Hawk, blocked it from retiring the U-2, blocked it from retiring the A-10. Are there other things that you think the Air Force should be cutting instead of the A-10 as it seeks to reduce its budget?
Well, I can tell you this. First of all, two things. Number one, I'm looking forward to us working together to address sequester, which I've been working on this effort for a long time, so that addresses the big picture. But I think that there are, if you look at the growth of the bureaucracy, in terms of the operations OSD end, there certainly have been recommendations there where there could be downsizing done. In fact, the Pentagon itself has said this is, under the leadership of the new chairman, not the new chairman, the new Secretary of Defense, then, I think there's some acknowledgement that that's an area we need to look at, because we can't continue growing the bureaucracy and cutting the tip of the spear of those who are actually out fighting and doing the work every day that's the work of defending the nation. And so I think that is an area we can look at. But I don't think it addressed the full sequester, which I'm committed to doing as well. I think that's important. It's Groundhog Day, and it doesn't help, our men and women in uniform to have to go through this exercise every year when there isn't a replacement. And there's not going to be a replacement next year either, so I would like us to be in a position where I'm really appreciative that everyone behind me has been willing to stand on this because of their experiences and their incredible work for our country and service to our country. But I think it would be important because nothing's going to change next year. Unfortunately, I think that when we look at this fight against ISIS and what's happening in Iraq and Syria and the other threats we face around the world, we are going to need the A-10 for a while. And the issue is that prematurely divesting it and giving some certainty to make sure that people understand this is going to be an airframe that's available to our men and women on the ground so that the commanders can call it up and use it is important. Yes.
What do you see as the future of close air support? Are you going to push the Pentagon to develop a follow-on to the A-10, or do you think the F-35 will eventually be able to do that?
Well, I have to tell you, so this has been, having been involved in this argument now, when the Air Force originally proposed retiring the A-10, the Air Force's argument has continually evolved. And now we were told, my office from the Air Force, that they don't believe that the F-35 actually will really perform that close air support function because of a lot of different reasons. And we've heard also the Air Force say that they're now looking at potentially another close air support platform. Well, as Senator Ernst said so well, we have a platform that works right now. So if we were going to develop a new close air support platform, and the F-35 can't truly perform this function, then the issue is, why would we eliminate it until we know what that is and how effective it's going to be? And especially as you think about the A-10 being the lowest cost per flying hour, and when we think about the economics of this. So it's not about the A-10 per se, it's about its capability. And if there was an equivalent capability in another airframe, I wouldn't be standing here. But the experts have said, and most importantly, myself having traveled to Afghanistan and having heard directly from our men and women on the ground, the experience that they've had and what they've said to me and said, keep this up because we know we can rely on the A-10 and we feel confident in its capabilities. That's what means the most.
Last question.
Yes.
Thank you. Would you rule out placing any A-10s in backup status or reducing flying hours or shifting?
Yeah, I'm against that because that's effectively retiring the A-10. And so the Air Force, has previously proposed we're going to put these airframes in backup status. That's like mothballing airplanes. That's mothballing the capability that we need now more than ever. And so I don't support that. I would. I fought against last year's language. The language that came out of the Senate was much stronger. And in fact, I think that if you look, when we stood here last year, we didn't have A-10s deployed, right, to Iraq and Syria. We didn't fully understand the fight that we were going to be in with this radical Islamic terrorist group. And so I think that circumstances have changed, and we don't want to be in a position where we go down the road that the House went down last year, and I'm going to make sure that, and work hard with both the Chairman McCain and the House to ensure that doesn't happen.
Senator, you mentioned ISIS a couple of times, and there's this claim out of ISIS now that they're responsible for the attack in Texas.
Yes.
Do you have your thoughts on that, please?
My thoughts are, first of all, I think it shows that this is a real threat to us and our homeland, and that we need to be vigilant. We need to continue. We talked about the A-10 in Iraq and Syria, continue to take the fight to them. And this is a troubling pattern. If you look at what's happened in April alone, you had the 6 individuals from Minnesota that were arrested in attempting to travel to Syria. You had the man who was an American citizen from Ohio that traveled to Syria and then came back to the United States, who was arrested and for joining ISIS and wanting to plot attacks against Americans. And there are multiple more incidents like that. And so this is very critical. I serve on Homeland Security, that we're focusing on intelligence, preventing attacks, but also understanding this fight has to be taken to them, and they have to understand that we're not going to allow them to continue their barbarism, their terrorism, and to bring that here. I've got to go vote. I apologize. So thank you all.